Hello everyone and welcome to another video here on the Cycling Day X channel. This is the bookend, hopefully, of our trilogy of the Tom Pidcock saga. I'm joined by Mr. Critical himself, a professional journalist of the Cyclist magazine. And Ewan, it's been confirmed now. We had our suspicions in the last video. We had a bit of flirting with the idea of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, but it's now been confirmed.
Yes, we now end our trinity of Tom Pidcock videos with the announcement that he is going to Q36.5 for cycling. This was long awaited and much rumored as the strongest link to Pidcock ever since the rumors of a divorce between himself and Ineos Grenadiers emerged at the beginning of October following his deselection from the Lombardia squad for Ineos Grenadiers. Nevertheless, it was announced this morning in a video on social media where he lit a match and said 2025 is going to be lit. Prize for the cringiest transfer announcement goes to Tom Pidcock. But this also came with a stylized version of a match in the Q36.5 colors that hinted at the announcement that was coming just an hour or two later. But Scott, that's it. We finally have this debate put to bed. What do you think?
Odd choice. When we look at it, it's like we spoke about this in the earlier video. Q36.5. We'll go into the squad a bit more, but there's a lot of World Tour experience within it. But it's not one of the teams that's fighting for that top two positions. Definitely not in this promotion cycle. But I mean, they could be moving forward. Big investors, as you said in the last video. So for me, it's an odd one. I thought a World Tour team would have been on the cards, but this is very late as well. So maybe that's one of the factors. But yeah, Q36.5, what do you think of the choice?
Well, I mean, it seemed odd when it first emerged back in October, but it was the one with the strongest links, and you were hearing and building a momentum that he was going to go to the team. And now it's starting to sort of make sense in my mind to some extent, let's just say. In the press release, the announcement saying that he will be moving, there's a lot of language talking about, from Pidcock, talking about how this is going to be a fresh start and the start of something special, and he wants to be part of this new project. Yes, it's a Phoenix team at the old Quebecer formation that was around in the 2010s, but it has only been around for 2 seasons at this point. And, quote, "This isn't just a change of jersey, it's the start of something special. The chance to work with a team that's growing with incredible partners and brands is something that motivates me, and I can't wait to see what we will achieve together." It's positive language, and I think it is an interesting partnership. He's not going to Red Bull, where I think he'd had the same problem as Ineos of being swamped up by all the different classic stars and GC leaders that could have possibly got in the way and frustrated him there. It's a start with a new team that can really be his. It's got a clear-cut sort of it's got a unique identity and unique personality, and also an ethos that sort of champions climate change, for instance, on the World Tour. It has the links to charity work. It's a fascinating team, and it's also got key personnel there. A lot of World Tour riders, as you mentioned. Michael Albacini is now joining the team as a director sportif. Doug Ryder is the kind of man who steers the project. He's fantastic at sort of leveraging top level riders to go to his team. We saw that back in the 2010s with Edvald Bosenhagen, who at his peakish, moved to MTN Quebec, Tyler Farrer as well, and then Mark Cavendish, of course, being the most high profile when he moved across in 2015 through to sort of 2016. So I think it's actually quite positive, this move to Q36.5. It doesn't really guarantee him an access into a Grand Tour, maybe the Vuelta in the years to come, if perhaps say, you got some of these financially troublesome Spanish teams that might get some financial woes and financial problems, and then a door opens to Q36.5, but they also have to compete against Tutor Pro Cycling, who now have Mark Hirschi and Julia Alaphilippe, who are 2 similar riders to Pidcock, really. And I would say Alaphilippe has more star power than Tom Pidcock. Sorry, Tom. But it's, it's going to be exciting. I'm actually, quite happy he's gone here and not gone to World Tour team. And when the rumors came out, I sort of raised my eyebrows, but now I'm really on board with this.
I mean, last year 5 victories, that was it. But I thought the Giro d'Italia wouldn't be more than cards. I wanted to focus a bit more on the squad itself. So Brambilla, you mentioned in the past, Nizzolo as well, former points classification winner of the Giro d'Italia, Tobias Ludwigsen, Carl Fredrik Harden, the Prince of of the mountains or whatever they call him in Norway. Damien Housen, who's a rider that Doug Ryder spoke about when we heard an interview, saying that this is the kind of rider where you give them opportunities that they've not had in other teams. And so do you think the squad can kind of help him as well with his goals?
Yeah, Damien Housen, I think a bit of an underrated rider, fell through the gaps of the World Tour and has now really come into his own. Also add in, I mean, the team's bolstered up its startless short backs. The Dutch rider who was domestique for Tadej Pogacar when he was really focusing on the Cobble Classics and those hilly one-day races. He's a fantastic rider, a little bit underrated. David de la Cruz in the mountains as well. You've got Emils Leipins from Latvia, who's another sort of really strong rouleur. Matteo Moschetti in the sprint, Nidzol on the sprint, Yannick Steimler as well, another good puncher. And Milan Vada as well has just moved to the squad. Vada, who has won a World Tour race at the Tour of Guangxi back at the end of 2023. So I think it's positive. It's not quite the same sort of magnet as sort of Tour de Pro cycling, or it doesn't have that sort of Tour de France edge that like an Uno-X or a Total Energies have. But it is definitely a team that's knocking on the door for bigger race invites. They currently get invites into Paris-Roubaix, the Tour of Flanders, also, what's that race called? Strade Bianche, there we go, which is 3 races that of course, Tom Pidcock would like to target next year. I mean, he's won Strade Bianche in the past. And I think with, more time, more development, and this team is only going to grow in strength, and they might even sort of overtake a couple of the traditional wildcard teams. I'm looking, at Spain that I mentioned, but also potentially some of the Italian teams. Your kind of Halti Visit Malta, as it'll be known next year, maybe even your VF project or whatever they're called next year. It'll be interesting to see where they move up in the hierarchy, because this is a team building momentum with a lot of money behind it. Let's not forget that they've got billionaires who are stakeholders in this team, one of which, Ivan Glasenberg, owns Pinarello. We'll get into them in a sec, because that could be a big leverage in this deal. And also loads of these blue chip sponsors that you have, your UBS, your Breitling, and so forth. It's, a team with real sort of money bags and ambition, expertise. It's not just sort of, a bunch of finance going towards a lost project. It really is got some top tier sort of expertise, management staff who are all there working towards this. And I think Pidcock joining is actually going to help his reputation, because it's, fallen through the cracks a little bit at the Pro Tour, pro team level, if you're judging it by reputation.
Yeah, but I mean, 3 years, it's going to be like some of the biggest years of his career if you go by like normal trajectory of a rider from, he's around 25 to 28. But what do you think his goals are going to be in 2024 if he is, or 2025 even, if he is cutting back on the off-roading? Or with this pro team, do you think he's still going to continue that?
I think he is going to do a little bit of everything. I think that's also what's enticing about this deal for a Q36.5. Whereas Ineos, it was kind of like, road team was the main thing and everything else was just sort of extra exposure, but they don't necessarily need it. Whereas this, it feels like, get all the exposure they can get and, embrace a rider type like this, where he can do lots of different things and bounce between all these different disciplines. Scott have the bikes that they need to do this. Scott will be the bike provider next year. That's where the contract is. We at least believe Pinarello could jump in afterwards. As we mentioned, Pinarello and Q36.5 have ties there, and Tom Pidcock is already a big figurehead for the Pinarello brand. Now we'll continue his work with them, presumably on mountain biking and cyclocross as well. So I think he is going to continue doing the multidisciplinary stuff and those pursuits. But on terms of the road, I think these one-day races will be key. They get the invites, as I mentioned, to a lot of the big Flemish classics. And that's where we've seen Pidcock show some promise in the past. He's won Brabantse Pijl, not quite lit things up at the Tour of Flanders, but I don't think it's too far off where he is at the moment. Similarly as well, I mean, Strade Bianche and these kind of punchy races, Flèche Wallonne perhaps, or Liège-Bastogne-Liège if he's feeling ambitious, the team would have to be invited there to begin with. But also these week-long stage races. We saw some really good progression from him this year in terms of those week-long stage races, getting stronger and stronger at races like Tour de Suisse and Romandy and so forth. and the team gets it in invites into a lot of these 1 week long stage races like Tour de Suisse, Tour de Romandie, and the Critérium du Dauphiné. So I think that's going to be a really good place to see him progress as a GC rider. And to be honest, I don't think he's necessarily made for Grand Tour racing. That's fine. Not all riders are meant for Grand Tours. Richie Porte and Jakob Fuglsang know that very well.
Whoa.
I don't mean to throw that at us, but it's true. They're the kind of guys who really thrive in 1 weeks, but just can't crack Grand Tours. And I think Pidcock went straight into the Grand Tour setting instead of doing 1 weeks, which I mean is probably a byproduct of just the modern era of cycling. But to be honest, I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to go down.
So, do you think that it's basically going to kill the dream of him winning the Tour de France?
Yes, but I think that dream was kind of dead anyway. And I think Steve Cummings told him that he wasn't going to win it. And some sources as well have said that is one of the reasons why they didn't get on, is because Steve Cummings is a little bit too real, a little bit too honest for him, telling him that he wasn't going to win the Tour de France. So I think he's just going to have to accept it. And I mean, if he can get into the race, he wouldn't have to face the reality of being 16th in GC. Let's think about it that way.
But I mean, that is the end of the Trinity. The Tom Pidcock saga is over for now. And that's basically it for us as well. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out the link down below with Ewan's own journalist link and the story with the interview that Cyclist did with the podcast earlier.
It was last week, but
Last week, there we go.
There you see a lot of him trying to pretend he wasn't moving. And also in the Cyclist issue that's coming out in January, we will have a full feature with Tom Pidcock.
There we go. Until next time, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.